We're super excited to again just speak with you today about your career, your advice for young people when it comes to developing strong leadership goals and ideas. And then also, we saw that you're really involved within public speaking. So we really want to be able to focus on that for our interview today. You had theater experience.
I do. And it's still like, can you see the smile on my face? I still just I think the theater's a gas. Shakespeare is my guy. I actually draw a lot of my speaking coaching and my leadership coaching, both of those things from my Shakespeare training.
So Sarah, talk to us about that because we want to know, how did your experience in theater shape your skills in public speaking? Because myself, I was heavily involved in theater in high school.
Well, then you already know the answer to that.
I was. So I really love that we have that in common.
Yes. Well, for me, when I'm working with someone, I am thinking about it from an audience's perspective, right? I was just working with somebody earlier this week, and I said, you have to remember when you start talking, your audience has no frame of reference for what's about to come out of your mouth, which is exactly what it's like when you stand up and walk out to do the first 30 minutes of any Shakespeare play. They have no idea what you're saying. For 30 minutes, at least, you might as well be speaking a foreign language, right? But you've still got to convey important story points, so they aren't lost for 2.5 hours. So you do that with stage presence and body language and blocking and taking beats and all the things that you know from theater training that help the audience stay with you, right? So often I have been a part of public speaking training, and I've watched other public speaking training, and it really is it's too focused on the speaker, and the speaker doesn't really matter. Just like an actor doesn't really matter. It's the audience who matters, right? So when you're on stage, tell me a favorite role that you did.
I played Willard from Footloose, which was
Oh, that's awesome.
that's
Okay, so when you're up there and you're Willard, you're thinking about the audience. Like, how do I bring the audience? How do I get them engaged? How do I get them to follow this story and think this is interesting? Because we've all seen boring actors on stage, and it's gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking about how do I bring the audience into this story. And so that's how I work as a public speaker and as a public speaking and communications trainer. Everything I do is focused on understanding your audience first.
I love that. I love that so much, Sarah, for a few reasons. Just really keeping in mind that audience comes first. Companies hire storytellers. It's really important to be able to convey your points. Simply, you want to make sure that your audience is understanding fully, what your deal is, what you're working on, what your goals are, and what you're looking to present. We've all sat through presentations where it's very difficult sometimes to follow, the speaker. Either they're going on and on, they're rambling, or they're just not really clear with, what they're really trying to bring forth to the audience. So you need to always consider your audience, whether it's an audience of 3 in a conference room where you're just trying to discuss a business deal, or as we've seen on stage, presenting to hundreds and hundreds.
100,000, it doesn't matter. Yeah. One of the things that I think it's really important to do, and this might be really useful to your audience, is I do audience research. Like, I want to know, who am I talking to? What's important to them? And how is what I have to say going to connect to what's important to them?
I think that's a great idea.
That's how you bring the audience, the people you're speaking to, want to feel like you already know them, right? And you're bringing a solution to a problem that they have, not generic broad brush. They want to think you are a solution to some huge problem they've got. So to know what problem they've got, you've got to do your homework.
No, I love that. You need to do your due diligence, who your audience is. That doesn't mean you have to look up every single person in the audience.
No.
But look, if you know you're going to be in Chicago during a conference and the weather's not so good, make a joke about that. I think that that is going to really make your audience feel like you're having an individual conversation with each of them, which can really help in whatever you're selling, what you're speaking about. It's just going to help your audience feel comfortable and happy to be there.
Yes, exactly.
So next question having to do with public speaking, thinking about people in their 20s, we constantly have presentations, of course, in college, or if we're looking to stand out in the workplace, we're presenting to this person and that person or groups of people, something that a lot of people suffer with at any age. But of course, a lot of young people, because they're understanding their voice, is that social anxiety or, they're shy to
Mhm.
speak out. What advice do you have for those students that want to present? They want to show their communication skills. They want to be able to, showcase their skills, but they have that sense of social anxiety. They're fearful to present.
Two things. Well, three, well, lots of things. I'll narrow it down though. The first is preparation, 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 preparation. You know that as an actor. Until you know your lines, there is not a whole lot you can do in rehearsal, right? I mean, you can learn your blocking and you can make notes and but you really can't start breathing life into a character until you know your script. You know your script and you know everybody else's script because you got to know your cues, right? So, one of the things that I actually have people do is write the script. I'm doing some executive interview coaching right now, and I'm making somebody hear the questions. I want you to write out your responses, and then I want you to practice getting those words out of your mouth. Well, she came back to me and she said, "Oh my gosh, you are so right." Because I write out these answers and then I start saying them. I'm like, that doesn't sound anything like me. I need to change these words. I need to, she says, I keep writing them down so that I can practice getting the words out of my mouth. That also helps a lot with the ums and the uhs and oh, what we're doing when we and is we're buying time. We're buying time to figure out what we're going to say next. And if you don't already know what you're going to say next, that's when all of that starts. So, preparation, preparation, preparation. You write out your script, you figure out what you want to say, and then you rehearse it and you rehearse it and you rehearse it. People don't want to do that. People don't want to rehearse. But you know as well as I do when you've seen an actor who's well rehearsed and an actor who hadn't, how painful the second is. It's painful, right?
Of course. So
So
there's a
go
few
ahead.
that I love that you mentioned there that I just want to make sure our audience is really understanding. The idea of practice. You really need to practice. And within practice, it's going to help to make sure that you're prepared maybe for an unexpected thing that does happen during your presentation. So relating this to being on the stage, if I have my lines down clear as day, I know what I have to say, and maybe a baby starts crying in the audience or someone falls on the stage and I have to maneuver around that or improv
Or
even.
God forbid somebody or you go up on their lines and you're like, oh, great. I have to like cover 5 pages of plot. Great. How am I going to do that? I've
Preparation.
had to do that.
So preparation is super important. And another thing that I love that you mentioned, the idea of buying time with a lot of people that use the ums and the buts. And I just think that people need to really respect the power of the pause. Sometimes it's okay to take a pause
Absolutely.
and just like consider, what do I want to say? What do I need to be saying right now? That's a great skill that a lot of people have used. Steve Jobs, a lot of great influential
And you
people.
breathe. If you watch Steve when he pauses, but I will tell you, his pauses are well rehearsed. He knows
Oh, you think
exactly.
so?
Oh, I know so. He has practiced that presentation within an inch of its life. He
True.
knows exactly, just like on stage, when you take a beat, you've intentionally chosen
That is true.
when that beat is. Shakespeare's great because he tells you when the beats are, but most playwrights don't. And so you've got to work those out for yourself. And you just, it's for dramatic purpose. And the pause, you're giving the audience a chance to breathe for a second, you're giving yourself a chance to breathe for a second, but a beat points at something. You're pointing at something with a beat.
Hmm. That's a great point. No, really, really.
So that's why you want to rehearse, because you want to figure out where are those moments. And here's the thing people really don't want to do. My clients hate it when I make them do it, because I make them do it and send it to me. They have to record themselves. It's painful. I hate watching myself on video as much as anybody else does. And I do this for a living. I hate it. But if I don't, there's so many things that I won't know I'm doing. Like I'm wandering, or I've got some nervous tick going on, or I've got who knows what I'm doing. And I don't notice it because I can't see myself.
I think that's a great point.
So that's part of preparation as well. People are like, well, why can't I just get up and start talking? I'm like, well, you can. And when you've rehearsed a lot and you know the basics and you know how to drive a presentation, then you can wing it. Then you can freeform it. Then you can, but you have to get you've got to get the structure down first. And that involves preparation and rehearsal, preparation and rehearsal, preparation and rehearsal.
I love that so much, Sarah. There's a lot of good advice there, a lot of good substance and advice.
People don't want to do it. I know that. I already know your audience is going, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the time to do
If you want
that.
to continue to, go places within your career, if you want to be able to stand out from the competition, especially in a world where, we're all on video right now. I mean, now is a perfect time to really practice and just be prepared. You can totally plan that out. So, no, I love
When
that.
I'm doing Zoom training, what I tell people is 3/4 of getting ready for a Zoom call happens before you ever turn on your computer.
That's deep.
Because that's about preparation. What do you want to say? What's your ideal outcome? What's your super objective? Who's in charge? Are you in charge? Who's running the meeting? How do you want to handle yourself? What's your composure? I mean, all of those things happen before you ever turn your camera on.
Really important. Preparation is
Choices.
important.
You know about choices.
Of course.
Make choices. And if you wait until you're in front of a live audience to make choices,
You're not going to make the best choices.
do not make good ones. Unless you're doing improv, you do not make good ones.
So Sarah, for our next series of questions, we saw that you are involved in a lot of different things, and we love this because I'm the same way. I think that you need to have your toes in different things, different industries, markets, activities, hobbies, because life is all about making experiences. And again, as I said earlier, companies hire storytellers, so you need to do different things to create those stories. So we saw that you started a wine business as a side hustle. All while being a keynote speaker, a life coach, a best-selling author. So if you could just share some tips for people in their 20s developing a multifaceted career like yours, we'd really love to share that.
Sure. Couple of things. Number one, I'm a big believer and proponent of multiple streams of income. And the earlier you start with that concept going in your head, the better off financially you will be. I was a company girl when I got out of college. I'm not even going to talk about how long ago it was. One job, one thing. I put all my eggs in one basket. That is not a good idea, especially in today's economy. Clearly, based on the past 12 months, we have no idea what's going to happen ever. And I never want to be at the mercy of one thing. I have friends that in the past 12 months, their whole lives just blown to smithereens because their job was eliminated, their company folded, their whatever. And they didn't have multiple streams of income. So I always am an advocate of that. I'm teaching my son who's about to go to college. I'm teaching him about that. So there's that piece. I also think that we are constantly growing and evolving. So the career I thought I was going to have when I was 25 has no resemblance whatsoever at all in any way, shape, or form to what I do right now. Nothing. So we're constantly growing and evolving. We're constantly discovering what we really like, what we're really good at, what, where that great zeitgeist is between what we love to do and what people will pay a lot of money for. I mean, that is a constantly, I think that's a constant moving target, because we are always growing and changing. The market's constantly growing and changing. What people want, constantly growing and changing. What people wanted last February, no resemblance to what people want this February. So I'm a big believer in that. I also have a slight problem with getting bored. So I'm always doing something because I'm bored with whatever else I got going on. So I want to come up with something new and fun to do. I've been working on a website nonstop for a week for a whole different project that I'm working on.
That's super exciting. And I'm, again, the same way. I opened it with that. I think you need to do multiple things in order to find happiness, and that's totally fine. And in order to find those things, have you heard of a philosophy called ikigai by any chance?
Yeah, I love that philosophy.
So I use that because I have, like, I'm always being offered new projects and, things to get involved in. And I needed, kind of a checks and balance within myself to know, okay, if I'm going to
Mhm.
take this on, like, what does it need to do for me? And I love Ikigai. And for those in the audience that don't know Ikigai, it's this Venn diagram with 4 circles. They're all connected. And it pretty much says if you're able to do these 4 things, you'll find happiness and joy. And it's you do something that you love, do something that you're good at, do something that the world needs, and do something that you can get paid for. And that could be either monetary or through experience. I think that is a form of payment for sure. And, I think, again, it's so important to do different things that make you happy, that make you joyful, and also will just give you experiences, because the whole point of this conversation is just really, really focused on the power of storytelling. So,
Yes. And you don't have material for stories
yes,
if
exactly.
you're not out there doing stuff.
Yep. You
The
need.
more you're out there doing, the more material you have. And I will say, because I love that Venn diagram, I will say if you can get 3 out of the 4, and if one of the 3 is get paid for it, you're good.
Yes.
I love pursuing the 4th, but if you can get 3 out of the 4 and get paid for it, at least start with that, right?
Yeah. Well, Sarah, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I just love how much we
Oh,
haven't.
time flew.
Yeah, no, it did. And that's the power of storytelling. It is. I mean, that's literally the point of storytelling. And I'm glad that we were
I
able.
could tell stories for hours.